Being a library director is a little bit different than being a regular librarian. I always joke that I'm the paper pusher and not necessarily the people person anymore, but I do have occasions to still speak to library users. But my role is to work with the board to create a budget and oversee the general operations and make sure that we are providing the best service that we can within the library and also out in the community. I oversee staff. I make sure that our maintenance department is running smoothly. It's just a lot of general management stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it seems so far away, when you think about where it started and, how it moved across Europe. I knew it was a matter of time before it got to us, but it still seemed, I don't know, almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it just seemed unlikely. And as things started changing in the US, I thought, okay, well, maybe just not here in our community, but eventually, it spread to the state and it spread to our community, and things really changed. I think early on, even at the beginning of the lockdown, when the library had to close, it still felt sort of surreal and not really, it was hard to imagine that it was really here. I would have to say probably, and we were closed for months. So, you would think, oh, from day one of that point, but it really wasn't. I would have to say probably 3 or 4 weeks in, when it seemed to be never ending. We thought we'd be closed for a week or two and that might be it. And, 3 or 4 weeks in, suddenly March turned to April and April started turning into May. Soon after that, I think that's when I realized that, hey, this isn't normal and things might be different. And when we came back, it was a whole new world. I felt a lot of things. Fear, not fear for my personal safety, but just fear for the organization, fear for the community, fear for the country at large, because at the time early on, things were really running rampant through the country, and it was a little frightening. Guilt, because as a librarian, we live to serve. I know it sounds crazy to say, but it's true. And I think worrying that we weren't doing enough for the community, or what we could do or couldn't do for the community. So there was a lot of guilt involved with that. And really just uncertainty all around. We had to create policies and procedures. We had to follow CDC guidelines, state guidelines. All of these things were so new to us. So I think we learned a lot. I learned a lot. We all, I think, as a group, the staff, I have to say, did a really great job being just open-minded and easily adapted to all of this change. So that, there was a little bit of excitement there because I saw the best in people, maybe even people who was just always lurking there at the surface, but we never saw it as a group, but suddenly we saw it because I think everybody really pulled together in a positive way. So there was a little bit of good in the end.
Mm-hmm.
It was all pretty quick. And that sort of took us by surprise. You know, there was talk at the state level. There was a lot going on in the governor's office. There was a lot going on with the Office of Commonwealth Libraries, who's our kind of governing body at the state level. And it was a Friday, as I recall, and it was after 5 o'clock, no less, that the decision was finally made that public libraries had to shut down. At that point, I think they had already shut down schools, or within a day or two before they had shut down schools. And that was what, the second or third week of March of 2020. So I think our official close date was March 14th. That was a Saturday. So we closed for that Saturday, and we were closed until, I would say, was it June 8th? June 8th, we brought staff back for a week before we opened for curbside service. Then following that, we were closed to the public. The building was closed to the public for 2 weeks, but we provided curbside service through our drive-through window on 12th Street. And then at the beginning of July of 2020, we opened again to the public. And we managed to stay open except for one little blip in December where we had some COVID cases or possible COVID cases among the staff. And so we closed for 2 or 3 days, 3 days, I believe. We have come back, though, with limited hours, and we haven't changed those just yet because we still haven't seen, at this point in June of 2021, we still haven't seen the pattern of usage go back to its fullest potential. I really think that it's taken people a long time to go back to their regular routines and just feel comfortable in large public spaces, and we do have a large public space. So we're not open as many evenings a week. We have limited hours on a Saturday. We are available in all spaces for browsing, but we do still, as you know, carry on with programming virtually. Hopefully this summer with kids, we'll be able to have some things in person too. Actually, it's been really great. And you, of all people, were one of those individuals that really drove the change because we hadn't at that point. I mean, you know, we hadn't done anything virtually. We never tried virtual programming. And suddenly, you know, here's this new horizon, and there we are. And you're out there with your coworkers in adult services doing virtual programming. So we were able to offer things like Socrates Cafe and book group and story time and wellness series and things like that to the public in the comfort of their own home, which was really cool. And right before COVID started, like within 3 or 4 months before COVID started, we had started a subscription to Hoopla, which is an online streaming service, as you know. And it's been really a godsend because for as much as we had patrons who use those online books that we had already had available through Overdrive, online ebooks, e-audiobooks, to add this service was just a happy accident that suddenly we were able to provide library materials online to patrons from home. So even when we weren't here, they were still able to use our resources. And the other thing that we did, it was kind of an on-the-fly situation, was we started providing library cards online. And that was something that we had talked about off and on, but we had never really moved forward with the process. So we managed to streamline it between when we started last April and now. And now we're still providing library cards to users through an online web form. So that's really great too. And we've made other changes since then. You know, our webpage has been updated, so that really makes a tremendous difference as well. But just, I think being able to still connect with people, even if it's virtual, is really a new concept for us at Allentown Public Library. And, you know, maybe not in the library community at large, but for us. And I think that really was a big change. creating all that policy. I mean, not that we don't, I work with the board. We're actually, the irony was in 2020, we had made the decision that we were going to update policies, look at things that might have needed renewal or things that just needed a check. So creating all this new policy was an exciting thing too. So that really demanded a great deal of time, trying to sort out new patterns for how to deal with materials. That took time. Usually I'm not quite as hands-on with the check-in, check-out process as perhaps our circulation supervisor might be, but really getting involved in the nitty-gritty details of the day-to-day as far as things like circulation and how we'll provide service. That really was something that impacted my job greatly. One of the interesting things that we managed to do is with department heads is we managed to, we had a standing weekly meeting. Now we have to, talk to each other in passing, and it's hard to get everyone together to have a meeting, even though we're back. But it's funny that we had all that time to meet and discuss and work through policy. I almost missed that, to be honest with you. It's more based on my personal experience, but I hear stories from people with similar experiences. I think that as a society, we've managed to have our eyes open to what really is important as far as relationships and connections with people. Being apart from families, I've read so many stories online and have spoken to people, being apart from their families has been really difficult, and how much everyone seems to appreciate that more. Even just email correspondence that I've had with colleagues or people within the community partners groups that we might have worked with, everyone takes the time to say, I hope you're well, I hope you stay safe. And I'd like to think it made us a slightly nicer, perhaps more generous community at large.
Mhm.
Um, this is going to sound crazy, but how much longer the seasons took to change. Um, as a child, it seems to take forever. I'm sure you can remember being home from school in the summertime and thinking summer would last forever. And as an adult, I think we kind of take that for granted. And being home during lockdown, I went outside every day I absolutely could. And some afternoons, my teenage daughter and I just sat outside and connected and just enjoyed the spring. And I found for the first time in a very long time that I was able to observe all of the nuances that come with the season change. And there was a lot to surprise, I guess, in that situation, because like I said, it took so much longer than I usually take note of. Usually I look out and there are no leaves in the trees. And one day I think, oh, there they are, because, and suddenly I got to see it again. So that was kind of nice. What would I advise future generations? Be prepared, I think. And when I mean be prepared, I mean be prepared for every possibility, every possible good or bad situation. I was a Girl Scout growing up. My daughter was a Girl Scout for a while. My family teases me because I'm that person that carries that extra blanket in the car in the winter, even though I don't go anywhere. But I think we've learned to be prepared. When we all felt the crunch with the great toilet paper crisis, or, people hoarding cleaning supplies or whatnot. I think that we can all, I'm not saying we should all be preppers, but perhaps be prepared for any kind of scenario in our lives. And that also means in our relationships, in our connection with people, in our work environments. I'm not always the best example of that at the library, but I think that we shouldn't take it for granted, and we should maintain those things and be prepared for being a part, and have some sort of contingency plan if that would ever happen again. Because I think if it comes around again, or it happens in a future generation, I don't know about you, but I felt blindsided by the fact that suddenly I was cut off from the world. And I think that there's a real possibility it could happen again. And if we're ready for that possibility, I think it'll make it a little less painful, or make the adjustment a little less painful. Well, there's always lots I'd like people to know about the library. I think the biggest thing is, and you can attest to this, we're not just about books. And for as great as books are, and I love books, and I like the smell of books, and I like to be, lost in a book, we're so much more. And I think the pandemic really helped bring that to light, at least for some of our users, because we have all of these great online resources. We have databases, we have streaming services, we have ebooks, the audiobooks, we have reference services that are available remotely. We have things that people need right now. Since we're open again, we can offer remote printing possibilities again. We have computers for public use. We opened up our Wi-Fi during the pandemic, as you know, and we spread it out for, the signal out further into the community, so people could come and sit outside and use our free Wi-Fi. So we have all of these great services. I think that new people took advantage of that. Maybe people who just came in to check out that bestseller might have suddenly become aware. We are more than just what people envision, cardigan wearing, glasses on a chain, books on the shelf librarians, even though I do tend to wear cardigans.
Well, right there's my mandatory cardigan. So
yeah, but there's so much more possibility here. And I think that we should, more so maybe than we're doing right now, is we really ought to take advantage of the fact that the pandemic opened up the possibility for people to see that in us. So that we're just more. I guess that it boils down to that.